We're streaming?
I don't know. I pressed the wrong button. Alright, fuck it. We're on air. Here we go, baby boy. Hell yeah.
There's times you sound like you're in a pond.
Huh?
There was a couple times you sounded like you were in a pond.
Oh, the ponds are fun. Alright, whatever. We're just gonna go. We're just starting it, baby boy. Well, too bad. I'm in a pond. What are you gonna do about it?
Cry.
Okay. Howdy there, Tube Believers. Welcome back to New World Nation, the official podcast of the New World Nerds YouTube channel. If you're new to the podcast, we rewatch and review one MCU movie. I'm unfocused. I don't know if we're back. We're probably not. Whatever. Leading up to Avengers Endgame, I'm your host, Superman Nico, and I have a different co-host every week until I run out of friends, and looks like I ran out of friends, because here it is, Gump's video, yeah, second time.
Hey guys,
returning.
I'm back after, trying to sneak my way in a couple times. He said no. I don't know how he resisted my charms, but he did. So congratulations, Nico, you're the first.
To resist your charm?
Yeah, wait, that's every single woman.
Wait. It looks like we might be live. Who's to say? Hey, we're live. We have 5 people watching, baby boy. Good to bloody see everybody.
Oh shit! 5 people heard that. Wait. I am one spaz with the ladies. Wait, not spaz. That's the wrong word. Wait, we're live. Welcome to the Gump's videos, guys.
So join us for the end of the line, and this week we watched Avengers: Age of Ultron, and I definitely watched it. I know Gump definitely watched it as well.
Yeah, literally, I just got done watching it, what time is it? 9:43? Less than an hour ago. So,
all right,
yeah,
so
it's
before we get started, I wanted to ask you, what's your excitement level for Captain Marvel out this week?
Out of 10, it is higher than it was.
You just spazzed out for a second?
I'll say probably, it sounds low, but it's probably between a 6 and a 7. I'm probably aiming towards more of a 7. It's higher than it has been because none of the commercials did it for me, but yeah, I'll aim for a 7.
Bloop, 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 bloop. Sorry, spazzed out for a second, but they heard you. Yeah, the first trailer, whatever, was fine. My excitement started to snowball, and I'm really just excited to see what kind of Avengers Endgame implications there are, and I've only heard good things about it from people who aren't just hating it because it's a woman.
There's so many reasons why I'm so annoyed about that.
Yeah.
Can I go on a tangent? Because, that's why you wanted to be here. Yeah, so, this Captain Marvel will be, the 21st MCU film or the 20th? It's one of them.
21st.
But, 21st. So, 20 of those MCU films are all male leads. And one is a black male lead. One of them is a female lead. Everybody loses their fucking minds. Calm down, guys.
I just see the Joker. It's just make one female superhero. Everybody loses their minds.
That is exactly what I was thinking. And I was telling Crystal, listen, I don't care if you're a woman, a dude, a trans, bi, gay, straight. I don't care. If you have pew pew powers, I'm gonna watch you. And it's everybody just fucking spazzing out because it's a woman, and I don't get it. Yeah. I just don't. People want to hate just to hate. It makes absolutely no sense to me. But whatever. I just didn't like the trailers. That's why I was never really that excited. Sue me.
And also, you hate women, remember?
Yeah, that's right, because they hate me, so I hate them back.
Yeah, they just can't stand me, so I'll show you.
Yeah, I hate them to lessen the pain.
Yeah.
Does it lessen it? A little bit, but not by much. Still feel like someone's hitting me with an 18-wheeler.
So I remember when I came out of this theater, Avengers, obviously, made me nerdgasm all over the place. This one though, felt a little lackluster. I thought it was just I don't know, maybe it was superhero fatigue or whatever, but which I thought was impossible for me. But I still had a really good time. It just didn't give me the same feeling that I got when I watched Avengers. And now realizing it, I just feel like it had so much to set up. It had to set up Civil War, Ragnarok, Black Panther, and Infinity War. And I thought it did a good job of laying a lot of those seeds. It just kind of got lost in the shuffle, it felt like. And maybe it led Joss Whedon to just quit directing for a while. I felt like there was a bit, the expectations are really high because of the first Avengers movie, and I thought it had a lot to set up. And when you think about it, all the stuff that it did set up were really good in Phase 3.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I feel like this is actually the first time Marvel screwed up with their setup. Usually they were great with their setup. Iron Man 2, you can argue that it was just too much setup. It was just set up for Avengers. But I feel like with this, it wasn't just setting up one movie. It was setting up, like you said, so many other movies. And I feel like they got a little carried away and it lost itself. And when I was watching this with Crystal, she said, I thought you said this was okay. The first half was insane. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I love the first half. But it's the second half where it just becomes just a commercial for the future of the MCU.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because I remember hearing an interview that I forget who it was. I don't think it was Kevin Feige. No, it was probably Kevin Feige. He said, listen, I know you want Jeremy Renner, Hawkeye, to have his farmhouse scene, but you cannot have that if you don't set up Ragnarok, Civil War, and all these other movies. And in a way, that's kind of holding him at gunpoint when it comes to creative control, because you're making him add so much shit just keep one scene, a scene that Jeremy Renner was promised when he was first casted as the role, saying you will have a major story arc, and he didn't get any of that because he was kind of mind controlled in the entire first Avengers movie until the final act. And same thing with here. He why would you do that to that character just to set up? It makes no sense to me, and I feel like that's what was one of the first major issues of the movie. They dropped the ball just focusing on other movies and not the movie at hand. It's an Avengers movie. It didn't feel like an event because it just felt like a commercial.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. I'm just going to go ahead and shout out the chat for a bit. Justin said, welcome back to Gump's Videos. I am indeed Kyle. He said Kyle Gumper. I guess you just forgot the T. Dixie says, hello. Mike said, wow, I already talked more about Age of Ultron than we talked about Guardians. Hey, what can you do? Plastic Adventure says, hello. And my dad just says, Shazam! Webhead said Age of Ultron was disappointing. And then Plastic Adventure said, okay, this is a bit off topic, but we're just going to answer this one question. Do any of you think that they should have used Ant-Man in the beginning of Phase 1? And yes, I do. I understand that maybe it wouldn't have done so good commercially because Marvel Studios wasn't the Marvel Studios, that we know today. Because just think about like the Incredible Hulk, even though that had to do with Universal as well. But Edgar Wright was really dealing with Ant-Man in development hell since like 2006, since they decided they were going to do like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I just hate how he never got a chance to like fulfill his dream of bringing Ant-Man to the screen. I understand there's creative differences, but I feel like it being in the first phase before it's like, hey, we got to set up Infinity War, hey, we got to set up this and that, I think that he could have done well. It would have gotten a little more range.
Yeah, I was initially going to say no. Then I thought to myself, it didn't have to be the starter. It could have been the end of Phase 1. Because I guarantee you, 150%, if it was the first movie, if it was the Iron Man, Marvel Studios would have been shut out of luck. Iron Man failed.
For real.
If Iron Man failed,
bankrupt.
They would not have the end today. They would have been so much in debt, they wouldn't be able to release the Incredible Hulk. They would have been like, sorry, no Incredible Hulk movie, kind of tough. So if it was Ant-Man, it wouldn't have worked with no word of mouth. First off, it's Ant-Man. People will say, okay, I can watch a Spider-Man, but an Ant-Man? Like, that's fucking lame.
There's an Ant-Man and a Spider-Man?
What?
So there's an Ant-Man and a Spider-Man?
Yes, 100%. It's just it's the insect kingdom in there. But Spider-Man's not an insect. Well, spiders.
Wait.
Whatever. Beside the point, the tangent aside, it just wouldn't have worked. I feel like if you had the Iron Man hype, the Cap hype, and the Thor hype, and a little bit of Hulk. I know a lot of people didn't really like the Hulk that much, and it was the ending of it. I feel like it would have made some more money, but nowhere near as much as it did now. It still would have been a massive financial risk, but you're right. I would have loved to see Edgar Wright's take on it because I love his movies. Hot Fuzz is my favorite movie of his, and it would have been nice to see that spin on it. But the good news is we saw a little of his flair in the Ant-Man movie and Ant-Man and the Wasp. It just did feel a little like, oh, I'm copying this guy because he was in it. But you could say it was a love letter, but whatever.
And Plastic Adventures went on to say is like, I mean like around phase 1. So what if you think if they would have put it like in between Captain America and the first Avengers movie?
I'm thinking right around there. I think it would have been the very. If I was Kevin Feige and I had to implement Ant-Man in the first phase, I would definitely put it at the very end, just so we have that word of mouth of like positivity. Like, oh, this is all connected somehow. Let me go check it out. So there's at least like 4 or 5 movies, and a lot of people will be like making those connections and saying, oh, okay, I saw that from Iron Man 1. They reference that in Captain America. I heard Stark in Captain America, so they're connected somehow. And this is on the same banner in Ant-Man. Maybe we should go check that out. Maybe this is a cinematic universe brewing up. And like I said, wouldn't have made as much money, but just like I said, it would have been worth just for the Edgar Wright.
Okay, one last question about the Ant-Man in Phase 1. What if instead of the shawarma scene, what if you got Ant-Man as a part of the Avengers in the first Avengers movie, and then instead of the shawarma machine, you get another like post-credit scene setting up his movie? So what if he was in the Avengers movie as a part of the team, and then he spins off into his solo movie? You think he could get that rub?
That would have been a lot better, because that is clearly one of the peaks, the many peaks of the MCU is the Avengers, and you have a lot of people coming in to see this, and it's balls to the wall. Saying you got Thor with his greasy ass hair and his swinging a hammer that shoots electricity out of it. Controls electricity. You got Captain America with a fucking frisbee as a shield, and you got Iron Man, a tin can, Loki wearing reindeer antlers on his head, for fuck's sake. So I think with all that insanity, I feel like introducing an Ant-Man would have been a little less insane than just introducing him in his own solo movie. And plus, it's been proven time and time again, when they kind of bring a superhero into a movie and then do a solo movie, it tends to do better numbers. It's like, look at Black Panther. That was going to make big bucks to begin with. But I feel like a lot more people went out to watch it just specifically because he was one of the show stealers in Civil War.
Yeah, I feel that as well. All right, Webhead's trying to get us back on topic. He says Age of Ultron, this is just his overview. Age of Ultron would have been better for 3 reasons. 1, Age of Ultron not being an evil Tony Stark, no rush characters, cough Quicksilver, and not setting up 4 different movies at once. So I think we kind of covered the setting up the 4 different movies. I get where he's coming from. I'm going to say a little something about the actual character of Ultron, then I want you to say something about it as well. So I just really I didn't like how he was kind of like snarky. I didn't think he needed to be someone to tell jokes. There was one part in the first trailer where he says there are no strings on me, and like he seems so menacing and towering. It wasn't until I saw that shot where I was like, oh shit. Like imagine like an 8-foot robot like towering over you and telling you that like, hey, I'm about to fuck your shit up. But I didn't want it to be like he's not like he's not like a robot like a destroy. He's not a freaking what's the one from Doctor Who? Fucking
I don't watch Doctor Who.
Whatever. Gabby's gonna be screaming at me. A Dalek. Boom. Said it. It's not like a Dalek where he's like exterminate. He hates and he loves. Like he hates like all the heroes, right? He's like it's nothing. It's like I hate you and everything like that. But guess what? Like I'm programmed to kill you. He loves. Oh, I just got Nerd Crew's just live right now. I got the notification.
Yeah, I just got that too.
But also he loves like he feels like he's alone in the world. He makes another a female robot for himself, Jocasta, who ends up turning on him. Like everybody he makes ends up turning on him. I just think there's a place to go from there. What do you think of Ultron?
Yeah, this is where my biggest gripe with the movie comes in. And you kind of mentioned it in the beginning of the movie, the first 35 to 40 minutes of the movie, the fucker was menacing as shit. Like, this is the first time I've watched Age of Ultron in years, and I mean years, and for good reason, because I thought it was just an okay movie. So going back to watching it, I was like, oh my god, this dude was frightening as hell with the whole strings on me, like freaking nursery rhymes and shit like that. I was like, dude, this guy is scary. He's calculated. He's menacing. He will kill just because you got in his way. And I found that frightening. And like I was telling Crystal, I know why they started making him like quirky is because they were trying to make him have a character. But story-wise, that makes sense. But tonal-wise and stake-wise, it made no sense.
Yeah.
And you have to find that perfect balance, finding what makes sense for the story, but also keeping the stakes high. Because it should have been reversed, if anything. He should have been quirky at first, then slowly got menacing. So I feel like they reversed the roles. So he starts off like cracking jokes, being all witty, like, oh, why is everyone leaving me, sad face? And then comes to a menace because everyone left him, and then he starts speaking in those nursery rhymes and speaking really cold and calculated. The movie I feel like would have been 20 times better just for that switch.
Oh, I didn't really think about it like that, but I think you're right. It would have been, it would have made a lot of sense because he would have started off as like a Tony Stark kind of person, and like it could be like, or almost a cautionary tale. It's just like I see a suit of armor around the world. Well, this is what that world looks like. It looks like an Ultron world, you know what I mean? Where the strong survive, only thing that will be left will be metal. I just thought like that, dude, that was metal as hell. Like, yes.
Yeah. I feel like they just rushed him way too quick. Like the movie is very fast paced. That's one thing because it's action set after action set, which is fine. But I feel like they could have taken out one action scene, which is crazy to me because I love action sequences, especially because they were really flashy. But like I feel like the second Ultron was made, he was instantly out to kill Tony. I feel like I would have loved to seen him kind of interact with Tony a little bit, like, "Oh, Daddy, I love you," and then he starts seeing the truth behind Tony. He's like, "Wait, you helped kill millions. I fucking hate you," and he resents him, tries to do his own thing, and then he starts finding the cold-hearted truth about the world, and he's like, "You guys are fucking nuts. I'm killing all of you," and then just like make that transition. I feel like we could have connected with Ultron a lot more because we do some fucked up shit. We do. So we could have connected him on that level, and it would have been a lot more tragic for the character because he was an innocent boy. Then he just turns insane. But the second we see Ultron, he's already like, I want to kill everybody because he spends 2 seconds on the internet. Dude, listen, if I spend 2 seconds on the internet, wait, that's my entire life. I'm fine. I think Ultron would have been fine. He should be a big boy. If he wants to kill the world, you should be thinking things a little bit more through. He's not as cold and calculated as he made him out the bait in the very beginning.
Yeah. So the way this movie starts off, when it started off, I'm like, screw you guys, because in all like the Phase 2 movies, none of them were together. After I think it's one thing to bring characters together, and I think something that the worlds of DC might be struggling with right now is actually separating all those characters once the team up is over. So I think that was a big problem that Marvel had to deal with in Phase 2, and I think they fixed it in Phase 3 where they did more team ups than they did solo adventures, which I think you could definitely do. But in Phase 2, none of them were really together. It's kind of like a plot hole. It's like, oh, why didn't Captain America call Tony Stark when all the helicarriers were there? You know, it was aiming at him too. Didn't Tony Stark have stuff going off? But in this one, in the beginning, it makes it seem like they've been together this whole time, taking down Hydra, searching for the scepter and stuff like that. I understand it was right after Hydra or Shield fell or whatever. That's how they got the scepter. I think they actually got it in Agents of Shield. They never show it, but I think that's where they get it. Ward ends up getting it. Anyways, I'm going into a hole. But I just didn't like how they were like, oh, look at us working as a team now. I was like, screw you guys. I wanted to see that whole time. Like, I understand it's a second movie and you guys should be gelling and stuff, but I wanted you guys to show up in each other's movies.
Yeah, and it's funny because I actually love that they just kind of went right to it, because this movie's already long. It's one of the longest MCU movies. It's sitting at like 2 hours and 25 minutes, so pretty close to 2.5 hours. They had to just get in there, and I feel like that was the best movie because you're right. There was no team ups, or there was nothing about anyone connecting in their own solo movies, and they should be doing more team ups to avoid these issues and stuff like that. But I'm happy they just started off like that. And, I mean, I think it was just for the better. I mean, that's just me. But I feel like – what was I going – now I just lost my thought. Oh, dear. Nico, help me out. Nico, help me out.
What were you talking about?
I was leading into something, now I forgot it. Fucking shit.
You want me to reach? You can't remember? You want me to reach into your brain and pull out the idea?
Shit, dude. No, it's just like it left my head. It just left my head. I mean, this is why I have jump cuts, guys. I'm like, I go on my tangents, and I'm like, wait. Where was I at? Wait. But no, 2.5 hours, almost 2.5 hours long. They had to just go fast, and it feels weird because it's a fast-paced movie, like I said, but it's still 2.5 hours long. They could have like literally just cut down a lot of the action sequences, and the movie would have been a lot shorter. And then I feel like I wanted to see more back and forth banter because I feel like that's when the movie was at its best.
For sure.
Like with them talking, just hanging around Thor's hammer.
Yep.
Them just talking about like Hulk and Natasha Romanoff getting together. I thought that was really cool stuff. Just them interacting was enough for me, but they just kept going action sequence after action sequence, and they were pretty long too. So out of the 2.5 hour movie, I think like an hour of the movie was just boom, boom, pew, pew, pow, flash. That's just me though.
No, I agree that it should have been, like, I understand why they did it. I guess I was more mad that I didn't get more of it throughout Phase 2.
Agreed.
Webhead said he agrees that it was fast-paced as hell. He said he wouldn't have minded it being 3 hours. Well, you're going to get your wish, Webhead, because that's what it looks like Endgame's going to be.
Dude, yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, me too. Plastic Adventure says that is pretty strange for the beginning of Phase 2. The Avengers really bothered to help each other out when they were needed. Had the ID cards at the ending of the first Avengers movie. Plus, don't forget the Netflix show. The Avengers would have investigated the rise of Wilson Fisk. Yes, there's plot holes galore. Like, why are they showing up there? I guess that's the problem you run with having such a big, cinematic or big universe, as a whole.
And plus, the owner of the TV stuff pretty much hates Kevin Feige.
Ike Perlmutter and Kevin Feige hate each other, so...
Yeah. And then it's just like, your older brother is just like, hey, I have my toys, that's cool. And then little brother Kevin comes in, and he's like the prodigy child and starts doing better shit. And then the dad is like, you know what, Kevin, I like you. And then, the older brother be a little bit jealous, and he's like going to throw his pissy tantrum, start putting severe budget cuts on the MCU. And then daddy's like, you know what, fuck you. And then starts favoriting Kevin even more. And then, what's his name again?
Ike Perlmutter?
Ike, then Ike's just like, oh, I fucking hate everybody. He's like, oh, well, guess what, you're not going to have Daredevil and all the Defenders. And now look where you got yourself.
Daddy took my toys.
Dumb shit. You fucking ruined all of us. I mean, I hated all the Netflix superhero shows recently, but you were starting really good. And that's when guess what? That's when you liked Kevin Feige the second you started eating each other. You start fucking up. Coincidence? I think not.
I think Kevin Feige was more just like a producer and stuff, not like the head honcho. I think that was always Ike Perlmutter. And they were like, well, the people kind of found out that Kevin Feige is the reason why all these movies are doing so well. So Ike Perlmutter just chill out. And then he's like, no, we're going to make an Inhumans movie because Inhumans are just like the X-Men. And X-Men make $1 billion, blah, 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 blah. And then we're like, no, they're not. They're not the X-Men. Inhumans are not the same thing. You can't just interchange them. They're all on the moon. Just kidding. Just the bad guys on the moon. I don't want to talk about Inhumans. But yeah. And then so he's like, well, no, it's not. Anyways, you're going to go to TV. And that's why the movie changed to TV, because Ike Perlmutter was the one that wanted Inhumans so bad, because he thought it was just like the X-Men. He thought they were sitting on billions of dollars.
And he played himself. They didn't even make it out of the first season. You know how bad that is? That's like a fucking record of like, oh shit, brother, you messed up.
You don't have to tell me how bad Inhumans was. I finished it, okay?
Oh, really?
Yes.
No, like how bad? On a scale from 0 to like Satan's ass cheeks. How bad?
Look, because they wanted you to root for the royal family that was oppressing people. Like, the Inhumans...
Wait.
Like the Inhumans, like the royal family, they had like a. I don't want to talk about it. We're getting out of the Inhumans. The best part of that show was the dog. I liked Lockjaw. He's pretty dope.
Fun fact, though, did you know that Ike wanted to put a massive budget cut on Civil War, and that's where the strain kind of like just burst out of control. I think Kevin was like, "Oh, we need like $150, $200 million, nothing big." And then
we need
Ike
to play
like,
Robert
no.
Downey Jr.
Yeah, Ike was like, "Now let's make it like 80 million, 90 million," and he wanted something so obscure, like it's clearly impossible, especially when fucking Robert Downey Jr. is going to be taking 50 million of that shit. So it's like, clearly they need a bigger budget, and then that's when they officially separated ways.
Yeah.
Like, Ike was like, no, here's my budget plan. That's Kevin's plan. Mine's smaller. See, it's got less zeros in it. That's what you want, right? And he's like, now we want good content, not Inhumans. So, bye-bye, go to TV. That's your budget, you dumb shit.
Plastic Adventure says, Daddy spanked Kevin. Then Webhead said, I haven't even watched that Inhuman shit. Don't even worry about it, Webhead. Because trust me, Marvel's not worrying about it anymore. So in this movie, I think we got our first MCU characters without punching powers. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I'm strong and I'm going to punch you. Oh, like, oh, I got blasters, I'm going to shoot you. Like, we got Scarlet Witch who can mess with your mind and move shit with her brain. And then we got Quicksilver who can run really fast. But then again, I guess he kind of just punches you really fast anyways. But, it's just something that we could get visually different, or that would be different visually.
Yeah, that's true. And, like, Quicksilver's just punch, but just with a blur behind him.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
He's not that much different. Scarlet Witch was definitely a good change of pace, but fucking hell, dude, that accent. I mean, I don't usually notice accents that much. I was telling Crystal this. I was like, I normally don't notice acting, but I mean, it doesn't bother me. But the more I think about it, like watching the movie, the more I'm like, yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, I just
like it's the one continuity error that they have, what they don't care about. It's like throughout the movie, she starts losing that accent by Infinity War. She doesn't even have an accent anymore.
But the thing is, she does have it sometimes. Like when she's fighting, Corvus Glaive or whatever, and where the heck are they? I don't remember. But she's like hands off. And, like, she has an accent, but that's the only time she has, like, an accent.
That's right. Oh, my God, you're right. I just saw Infinity War, like, 3 days ago. And, holy fuck, you're right. I feel like she kind of accidentally slips into it because she's like, I was getting to the role. I spent 7 years in Russia. I have that Russian accent, even though it's fucking horrible. And then now she's like, every time she's got those red clothes on, she starts slipping into a Russian accent. I bet you when she is playing with her pal in the bedroom, she has red on. She starts speaking in a Russian accent.
Yeah, that's what we all do. I thought.
100%.
I thought we all talk in Russian when we're in our red room. What? So, which Quicksilver's better?
Oh, 100% the one from X-Men.
Yeah,
100%.
I think so too. Also,
because this one was just literally to freaking be Hawkeye's shield for 15 seconds.
You didn't see that one coming?
Didn't see that one coming. I'm like, and that was like the first major death, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't care. So, like, first off, you were like literally just rushed. Your character was, I'm your older brother by 12 minutes. And I'm like, okay, that's like one of the best character developments he had. I'm like, I know something about you. Oh my God, your parents died. That's so tragic. Give me more. 2.5 hours later, give me more. There's nothing there.
Webhead and Plastic both agree with Quicksilver, and Plastic said Days of Future Past was memorable. Agreed. I love the songs, and I think he was the best part in Apocalypse also. Actually, no.
The only good part about Apocalypse.
No, the only good part about okay, that one, and also the suits at the end, which they should have in freaking Dark Phoenix, and they don't have. Those suits were dope as hell, and that's all I wanted. All I want is them to be in their comic book suits. I just want James Marsden to eat shit for saying that in the first X-Men movie. What'd you expect? Yellow spandex? Yes, yabish.
Honestly, that Dark Phoenix trailer looks like utter shit.
Yeah, I mean, already slammed it.
The final days of Fox is not looking good.
Why? What incentive do they have?
It's just getting a new release date. It's getting pushed back again because the reshoots haven't even been started yet.
Dude, New Mutants is just gonna be released on Hulu or some shit.
It is. It's either gonna be released on Hulu or it's gonna be fucking released in like like a New York theater for like 2 days, and they're like, shit, we're not getting our money back. Then they'll pull it back. It's like, either way, it's not gonna last long in theaters.
The point is,
I was excited. That first trailer was dope. But let's be honest, that fucking trailer came out almost 2 goddamn years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Who remembers that trailer?
Not I. I just remember they trapped Human Torch in a dryer. Even though it's him. So we got our Stanley cameo, the Excelsior moment of this movie, is where he's like, "Come on, Blondie, stop trying to scare us." Excelsior. That was a great one. That whole, like you were saying, the best part of this movie is when the Avengers are interacting with each other, just being real humans. And I think that's what separates Marvel from DC, for me personally. I feel like these characters feel like real fleshed out people, like how they are with their friends are like how I am with my friends when we're just hanging around having a couple beers. Like I just love that. And I think Civil War just double downs on that when they're just having a conversation about the Accords. I get the same vibe from here when he already created Ultron. Like, no, that's the end game up there. How are we planning on beating that together? We'll lose. Then we'll do that together too. Like, I just feel like those moments are always the best. They just feel so human and organic.
Yeah, the one I was watching several interviews of Stan Lee a couple months ago, and one of the things he said that he feels that Marvel is better other than his bias. He said, realistically, I feel like Marvel is better on the character aspect because these characters are not godly. They are human at the end of the day. They have very human emotions. And you're right. I feel like this stuff is so natural, and it feels like I could actually talk to these people. Mm-hmm. But with Superman, Batman, every time I see them in the movie, for the most part, I feel like these guys are just an identity that we want to live up to. Mm-hmm. These are like gods that we're like, one day I want to be like you. Mm-hmm. But with Thor, Captain America, they're so, even though they have powers, we feel like we can connect to them on a much more real level. And we feel like we are them already. There's always a part of us in these heroes, with like the Flash and like all these other DC characters. They are so perfect in so many different ways, but these characters are so flawed. Like with Iron Man, Tony Stark. Like normally, I would bitch at him for like, dude, when has AI ever worked in the human race in movies? Have you ever watched an '80s movie for fuck's sake? But now I realize, wait, the dude is suffering from major PTSD.
Oh, for sure.
All he is thinking about is losing his friends, losing Earth, because he is afraid that there's going to be another major invasion. And this was one of those big pinnacle points for his character when he starts being so selfish and starts thinking about other people. That's not him. And he starts becoming more defensive instead of just selling more weapons and shit like that. Mm-hmm. That character arc has been spanning through so many movies, but with like Superman, Batman, their character arc is, how do we beat this next guy? How are we going to one-up him? With these guys, it's an overarching story arc that is continuing even 10, 11 years down the line.
Yeah, I totally feel that. There was one thing you said about that they feel almost perfect, like gods, and I feel like Superman, like certain aspects of Superman should feel like that. But then when he's Clark Kent, like Clark Kent is him, you know, that's the real person. I understand that there's a speech from Kill Bill or whatever where he's like, he wakes up Kal-El and then he puts on his costume and that's Clark Kent. And but I just feel like the reason Superman is so great is because of the character Clark Kent, not because of Superman. But that's just me personally. Like I don't need him to be, you know, what's our allegory for Jesus. I don't need those similarities. I know some. I just
so on the nose.
Exactly.
I'm one of the few people apparently that loves Man of Steel, because I honestly do like the new take of him on that in that movie specifically, because I thought, oh wow, a new take on Superman, and he's much more real. And I'm a writer, so I love in-depth characters, in-depth story, and I feel like this was one of the more in-depth characters we've got of Superman, and I like that. But I'm not going to argue with people that don't like that, because Superman is an identity. He is an identity of the best person that can be. Superman and Clark Kent. Everyone wants to be him, and bringing him down to a more human level upset a lot of people, and that's fair, and I will never debate about that.
All right, we went on a DC tangent, but that just always seems to happen.
Yeah, what happens?
What was I going to say? We got Amazing Webhead said that's why he loves Marvel Comics, that they're people with powers but also have flaws. Plastic Adventure said, why do I get the feeling that the Russo brothers know a lot about Marvel more than their own brand? And I totally feel that. Like, it doesn't feel like a Russo brothers movie. I know they haven't done a ton of stuff outside of the MCU, but it doesn't feel like a Russo brothers movie. It feels like a Marvel movie. It feels like just a good superhero movie. It's not, to try not to get too much into DC, it doesn't feel like an edgelord that's just trying to get a rise out of you.
Yeah, 100% agree. And it's insane how the Russo brothers created such incredible content between Winter Soldier, Civil War, and Infinity War, and now coming out with Endgame. If Endgame is as great as Infinity War, these guys are one of the best superhero, if not the best superhero directors of all time, up there with Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Honestly, like it's insane the content they put out, but yet they're still down to earth people. And you know why? They're one of the few directors to admit that they needed help on a scene. They admitted in Civil War. They're like, oh, that airport scene, that was not all us. We got the guy from John Wick, and he helped us choreograph that entire fight. Most directors would have been like, oh, we'll get this monocle out. Be like, oh, yeah, that was all me. I knew the camera angles. I knew we saw that coming from a mile away. No, they're like, oh, so how'd you do the airport scene? And they were not hesitant. They were like, yeah, we got help. And that's why I love these guys so much, because not only do they put out great content, they don't have a fucking stick up their ass acting like fucking edgelords and like high emperor goddess, and they're like, ooh, no, they're good people, and that's why I like them. And I hope after Endgame they are able to do some more stuff. Maybe not in the MCU, maybe something with some X-Men properties or like something with DC. But I want them to do more work in superhero genre. But wherever they go, I will go, because they clearly know what the hell they're doing.
I think they definitely have earned a lot of fans for life, from their work in the MCU. And speaking of the Russos, I felt in this movie, I feel like Iron Man, Tony Stark, doesn't really learn any lessons since Iron Man 1 until like Civil War. You know what I mean? I feel like he doesn't learn a lesson until the Russos get a hold of him since like the first Iron Man, because in the first Iron Man he learns a lesson, but guess what? He unlearns it in the second Iron Man, and then again in Avengers, and then kind of relearns it, and then forgets about it in Iron Man 3 again, and then in this movie, he creates Ultron, and I understand that's like the whole like Joss Whedon when he's doing Avengers, where everyone's quipping. I really don't have a problem with that, except for like in serious moments when Cap threw the shield at Tony Stark. Like, that's insane. Like, that was their first little, I guess, not our first seed, but it was one of the seeds for Civil War, them actually physically fighting. And he was just like, I'm only going to say this once. How about nuns? That's not even... Shut up. That's terrible. It's just like, stop acting like you did nothing wrong. Like when he laughed and stuff like that. There's just some stuff. It's like, learn, damn it. Like, these are your friends. Like, they're not just your like coworkers. This isn't just your day job. Like, you guys are defending the world together. But I understand that's his character, but I just like when he starts actually learning from his mistakes.
I feel like that's the major part of his character, is the fact that he's so fucking stubborn.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to learn because yet again there goes up to that narcissistic side of him where he's just like, I'm right, you're wrong, and there's no other way. It's my way or the highway.
No, boo-boo, stick your head in doo-doo.
And I feel like, I honestly feel like this seed was planted for him to start learning more lessons in this movie, because this is like, what, the fourth fucking time he's been in a movie, and yet again, 4 effing mistakes every time he makes one major idea come to a reality. And I feel like this is when he's like, wow, I'm kind of bad at my job. I'm trying to save the world, but I'm kind of causing a lot of problems. So I feel like it just, third time doesn't work, shit, fourth time will definitely put it in your grave. It's just, he's a slow learner, because yet again, like, the narcissistic side of him is such a major key character of him and to get that away from him needs some time, and that's why I'm fine with it. But I definitely see why that would annoy some people because, like I said, he made the same mistake 4 fucking times.
Yeah.
Like in Iron Man 3, I'm one of the few people that kind of like that movie. But in Iron Man 3, he gives his address to a terrorist. So
yeah,
that wasn't exactly the smartest move. But yet again, his plan doesn't go according to plan. Like, what was going to happen? A terrorist going to, oh, you called me out on national television, you gave me your address, I'm just going to sit here and cry in my fucking safe space? Like, no, he's going to bomb you, you dumb shit. And then with Iron Man 2, and then Iron Man 1, and then this movie, I feel like after he created Vision, I feel like that's when he starts honestly grasping the idea that I got to stop doing this on my own. I got to stop taking everything like a joke. There's certain things that are serious, and that's what, like, you're right. When he starts, the Russo brothers get a hold of him. That's when he starts really learning. Because in Infinity War, he's making up a plan, and Drax is fucking sleeping. He's like, and then he's like literally yelling at him for being a jackass. That's not my Iron Man from Iron Man 1, 2, 3, or freaking Avengers 2. So, yeah, that was my tangent. My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, I think it's fitting that we keep on tangenting off into other movies because of this movie. Because, like you're saying, there's just a bunch of trailers for other movies in this. There's literally a trailer for Thor Ragnarok in the middle, like the dream sequence and stuff like that. You led us all to hell. Like, I think that I'm sure that was also like the studio, like, hey, we need to set all this stuff up. Like, people love to find stuff, give them little Easter eggs and stuff. The dream sequences were okay. I really loved Cap's the most. Like, I felt like that was the best one, and like it messed with me, like, because I'm like, I love Agent Carter. Like, I watched the show, and like I've met her in real life. She's a beautiful angel, most gorgeous woman I've ever seen in real life. But like, just seeing her, like, I don't know, they always get me. Like that scene in Winter Soldier where they're talking, like, it gets me every time. Someone said, or who said it? Webhead said in the comments that it was originally supposed to be against Abomination and not the Hulkbuster that fight, but Universal, like Plastic said. Thank you so much, Bree, for giving us a like. I really appreciate it. But what was it? I lost my thought. Oh, but in Civil War, I think that something cool, really cool that could have happened is what happened in the Civil War comics. I understand why they didn't do it, obviously, because Universal. But they could. The reason, like, you knew that Iron Man's side was bad in the comic books is because they started to, like, brainwash villains or whatever and use them. They started to, like, mind control villains and use them on Iron Man's side. So I thought it'd be really cool to get Abomination maybe in the airport fight. I know it wouldn't have made any sense. Like, I was just thinking that before the movie happened, and like obviously after you watch that, like in Infinity War, after I watched that, I was like, there's no way the Netflix characters would have fit in here. So I just thought it would have been a cool way to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I remember playing Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 2. That was solely based off of Civil War.
Yeah.
Definitely not as good as the first Ultimate Alliance, but it's kind of what introduced me to the Civil War storyline, and that's when I became a massive fan. And I was like, I remember being like, why would I choose Iron Man?
Yeah.
Iron Man's kind of a jackass. I'm going to pick Captain America. First off, America. Second off, I mean, come on, it's Captain America. Why would I pick him?
Yeah, like, he seems to be the moral compass.
Like, War, I feel like they did the best thing possible. Is like make both sides so like close to like to the side of righteousness and the side of right that you can actually have a serious debate. Like I was having like legit debates with people on like a moral standpoint. I was Team Iron Man, but I knew he was not going to win because A, it's Captain America's movie, and B, they were going to implement a way to make Iron Man's side wrong towards the very end, which makes sense because you're going to have like 50% of your audience displeased. Mm-hmm. Like my mindset was with that movie, it's just like, hey, we kind of destroyed literally a huge chunk of the planet. We need to be spectated. I'm like, you guys kind of do. You kind of need to be spectated. And then, of course, you got Thunderbolt Ross being a fucking see you next Tuesday. So that was fucking ruined. I'm like, oh, he's in charge. I'm kind of on Cap's side now because you had to get a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So that makes sense why they did that. But I would have loved to seen Abomination in there. But yet again, Universal being a bunch of assholes. Unfortunate. Like imagine Abomination coming in. Dude, freaking Cap's team would have been royally screwed. At that point, I think they would have had Spider-Man on their side, on Cap's side, just because they needed to balance the tides a little bit, or have Black Panther on Cap's side, just like you got to get rid of one of those two, or hell, put Vision on Cap's side. Like you got to get one of those major players out. But yet again, I would have loved to seen it. But
you could have just had Ant-Man just kick Abomination, while he's giant.
I mean,
but I would have just loved.
Funny as hell.
I would have just loved if Emil Blonsky was in the raft already, like in a cell.
Yeah, that was a missed opportunity. That entire movie, that entire scene was a missed opportunity. I feel like you could have set up it just subtly, not fucking forcing it down our throats. A lot of movies down the line, you could have had like so many different villains from like. At this time, we have Spider-Man, so you could have like a different amount of like Spider-Man villains in there, a couple of like Avengers villains down the line. There was a lot of.
You could have had Trevor Slattery in there.
It was a missed opportunity. Literally, there was a gold mine right there, and they were gonna fill it with nothing but the heroes.
Yeah.
When I saw that, when I started thinking about the movie I was reviewing, and I started thinking more and more, I'm like, what if this was in that scene? And I was like, wait, if that was a possibility, why didn't they do that? And then it just became a fucking floodgate of villains that could have been in there, and they ruined it. Like, imagine already having Eddie Brock as the Venom in there. He's just sitting there freaking spazzing out, trying to get out with his fucking Venom goo shit, and like, or having like Doc Ock in there. All you see is like you see this guy just crawling in the corner. You see scars on his neck, indicating that it was like Doc Ock, make him look like him. Missed opportunities, man. You could have had the Sinister Six in there. Imagine the Sinister Six in there. I mean, like, you don't have to set him up for 7 movies. You don't have to do it. Just put him in that fucking cage already. Just have it like where like they were kind of bots and they ruined it. They ruined their opportunity. Doc Ock is in that prison cell planning a way to get out, and then that's when Spider-Man intervenes. But man could dream. Sad. Now I'm sad. You got me depressed.
I'm so sorry. So, Hawkeye's farm. What's the over under that they all got dusted?
Wait, who?
Hawkeye's family.
Hawkeye's family. Oh, 100%. It's 100% they got dusted.
Okay.
No, dude, I've seen those eyes once in a movie before, and those are John Wick eyes. Motherfuckers are going to die. I'm guaranteeing you. I was telling Crystal this the other day when we were watching Infinity War. I said, I guarantee you this is going to be this is my crazy tinfoil hat theory. Okay, bear with me, guys. Okay, so here it is. Here's my tinfoil hat theory for Endgame. This is going to be a Hawkeye movie. This is what he was promised, and what I mean it's going to be a Hawkeye movie. Technically, even though it's Thanos' movie in Infinity War, you can also argue that it's a Thor movie as well, because it starts off with him, ends off with him. Imagine it starts off with Hawkeye just chilling out on his freaking farm. He's like, hey, and then one of the kids like, Daddy, I don't feel so good, and they just fucking start fading away, and then it just cuts to Endgame, and then you just see the city in ruins, and then you see freaking Hawkeye, or now Ronin, just start shooting arrows in people's necks, and get a little bit more gore in there, because I mean, you have proven, Disney has proven they are not afraid to go gory, because when they freaking killed Loki, I forgot I was watching Disney. I was just like, you made that so brutal. So imagine what they could do with a little bit more of an edge with Ronin, just like killing people, shooting arrows in their necks, and there's freaking blood. Make it gory. So when Black Widow comes to help him, he just kind of struggles. Like, I feel like this movie's gonna be focused a little bit more on his struggle with what happened, because let's be honest, other than this movie and Avengers Age of Ultron, he's been kind of dicked over.
I think Hawkeye works better in small doses. Like in Civil War, I think it's when we get the best Hawkeye. But
yeah, I agree. He was really badass in that, but we didn't get enough. And I feel like he's never been in the forefront. Black Widow has been in the forefront in many, many movies, I feel like this is just Hawkeye's time to shine. It's a freaking Hail Mary, but I would not be surprised if it starts off with him and ends off with him. I'm not saying he's going to be the one that stops Thanos. I'm not that fucking insane. I genuinely believe it's going to end off with Cap and Iron Man dying, but the movie will like fade to black when Hawkeye is saying "I love you" to his kids and like reading them a bedtime story, and then like that's my fear. That's my theory. But hey, that's just a nerd theory.
So speaking about tinfoil hat theories, I think that I'm kind of, I don't know if it probably originated from another YouTube channel or something like that, but I think that the Infinity Stones kind of talk to each other. Like they use the scepter, which is an Infinity Stone. We find out in this movie that's the Mind Stone, to create Wanda and Pietro. So I think that Quicksilver uses the Space Stone to kind of like move through space or whatever really fast, and I think that Scarlet Witch uses the Reality Stone because that's like her powers in the comics, that she can manipulate reality. So I think that they kind of talk to each other somehow. Maybe they open up ways to talk to each other. Like when Thanos gets the Power Stone on Xandar, he doesn't how does he know that there's already two on Earth? I understand. Maybe like he finds out or whatever, because obviously he knows at least one's on Earth. But I just think that it would be really cool if they ended up, there's like another thing connecting them. And so I do also have a theory that I understand it probably won't ever come into play again, but Vision talks about how he doesn't want to kill Ultron, and I feel like since he got the last one, I feel like somehow he might have trapped it inside the Mind Stone. I don't think it'll ever like come to play. I don't think we'll ever see Ultron again, but I do think that maybe like we'll find out later, and there'll be like a novel or something that like, no, Ultron, like he trapped him in the Mind Stone.
Okay. I will say that last theory is actually really, really interesting. It kind of makes you think, what are the odds? What percentage are you willing to throw at that Ultron makes at least an appearance in Endgame? Because you're right, we don't see Vision destroy Ultron.
We just see like a big glow.
Flash. Yeah, we just see a flash, and then that's it. Because he didn't want to kill him. I thought it was like Lenny getting shot in the fucking backwoods. But it could have been just him trapping him to the floor. I mean, look, that's what happened with Red Skull.
Yeah.
It could as easily happen here. So, like, if I had to throw a number, it might seem low, but it's also pretty high when you think about it. I'm going to throw a 15% chance that Ultron makes at least one appearance at it.
And also they say, I know they don't say it until like the Russo brothers are interviewed like after Civil War comes out, but they also say like he can't lift up Thor's hammer anymore. So maybe because he was dishonest, maybe because Ultron's there, maybe that's why he couldn't pick up Thor's hammer anymore. Just a crazy theory, like understands because he's becoming more human and he cares about Wanda, and that's kind of affects his judgment. But I just kind of thought that was a cool.
There's a couple things I could think about that, but that is also in the realm of possibility. It's always there, and with Marvel, anything is possible. I mean, shit, we had Red Skull in Infinity War.
Yeah.
And no one saw that coming.
No.
No one did.
No.
And if they say they did,
they're lying.
A hell of a person, or they are fucking lying out of their teeth.
Yeah. So, well, I guess we'll just talk. So Bruce leaves, right? Hulk doesn't come back. We don't see him again until Thor Ragnarok. I don't know if I told you this. I'm sure you heard it on another podcast maybe, but I wanted him to be in Guardians too, because I think that Thor like has a great has such a big universe like by himself, like the universe of Asgard and all the other realms and stuff like that. I just feel like he could have, because we didn't get Lady Sif in Ragnarok. I understand nobody liked Thor: The Dark World, but I felt like there was still more things you could do with those characters. So who I thought needed some help and would be really cool, maybe someone didn't watch the original Guardians, that would have drawn them to see the second one, is having Hulk in there. Like I wanted the post credits seemed to just be like Hulk like in the Quinjet, and all you hear is like ooga chaka, ooga 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 chaka, and then it cuts off.
Yeah.
And I thought that'd be really cool for him to be with the Guardians and like him be the one to bring the Guardians to Earth and stuff like that. But I like it would be so crazy like at the end where Bruce turns back into a human. They're like, what the fuck? He's a human. But I still loved Ragnarok. So
yeah. The one thing I will say that that would not work is only because how I don't see any of the Guardians being able to control the Hulk. So that's the only thing that, I mean, there's definitely ways you can write around it. I know this. You can write around almost anything. The writer is literally Jesus. They can do whatever the fuck they want as long as the viewer can buy it. Mm-hmm. So you can't have Drax one-punching Hulk. So that's unbelievable. But everything else you control. The one thing is, it's a lot of work thinking how basically a bunch of people with no powers, just a bunch of kung fu and tech, would be able to take on the Hulk. There's a couple ways, like I said, but I'm not sure how that would have worked compared to a Thor Ragnarok, because Thor literally can just walk off one of the Hulk's punches. But it would have been interesting. I totally agree, because the one thing I love about that theory, that could have been a theory, was that Hulk is the one that tells them about Earth, and he leads them to Earth. That would have been cool. But also, I think it was the wisest decision to give him to Thor. You are right, though. It's unfortunate because Thor has so many stories. But if you are gonna give Hulk to somebody, because clearly he can't have his own movie. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna give him to somebody in space, I think the safe bet was Thor, and it did pay off because Planet Hulk is one of my favorite storylines for the Hulk, if not my favorite.
I definitely would have still done Planet Hulk with the Guardians instead. So maybe Drax is also one of the gladiators. Maybe they're going in it together, because in the Planet Hulk storyline, he's not already, like, we don't get there and he's champion. Like, we see him go through the ranks and stuff like that, defeat the Red King, and he's like the prophesized chosen one because his gamma blood or whatever, like, grows vegetation on that planet.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, but it's also kind of awesome. I don't know, like, all I was thinking purely was the post-credit scene. I thought that would have been really cool.
Oh no, the post-credit scene would have definitely been really cool. The one thing against the whole me defending Thor Ragnarok is the fact that I really, really wanted a lot more Planet Hulk, because Planet Hulk and World War Hulk are like I told you, my favorite Hulk storylines, and it was treated as an afterthought. Yet again, I'm happy that we got with what we got, but I feel like it could have been a whole movie on its own. Maybe here's tinfoil hat. You have Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but it's mainly a Planet Hulk movie, and they're surrounding the Planet Hulk storyline, and their whole thing is they gotta break him out because he's the only way that they can stop this big bad guy.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that would have been a great Guardians of the Galaxy 2 movie if they just reinvented the entire movie around the Hulk, and they're like, our mission, get that guy and get him on our ship. How the fuck are we going to do that? He's big, strong, and scary. There would have been a lot of good comedic chops with that.
Yeah.
So you unintentionally kind of convinced me your idea would have been a lot better. No, you're right. Now I'm thinking, if I'm thinking it like that, it's the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but the plot is Planet Hulk. Mm-hmm. I'm down. Now I'm down. Son of a bitch.
So there's two things left I would like to talk about. So, like, they get that together moment when they're on Sokovia battling Ultron and stuff like that. I like how S.H.I.E.L.D. shows up, and so does War Machine, because in the first Avengers movie, I was like, why didn't War Machine show up in New York? Like, he's probably not that far away. And if he is, he just hops in the suit and he'll be right there. So I really liked how he just showed up. I thought that was cool. I really wish Falcon would have showed up too. Just be like, hey, booyah, I'm here. And then I like the helicarriers and stuff like that. I just wish, again, I'm just all about like crossovers and stuff like that. So I'm just like, put somebody from the TV show on that helicarrier. Like, I liked how it was the dude from Winter Soldier. That was cool. But literally put anybody else, like put Fitz like in the seat next to him. And like, you don't even have to say anything. I just want that for me. Because this was the worst crossover in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like into the movies. Because they're like, oh, it's time to do Theta Protocol. It's time to call in the Avengers. Like Agent Coulson tells Maria Hill the episode before Age of Ultron comes out. And it's just like the next episode comes out. It's just like Phil Coulson walking through like while they're building the helicarrier that shows up in Ultron. I'm like, what? Why? That's it? Like, that's all we got?
Yeah.
We didn't even get Phil Coulson, even though he was the one that built the helicarrier. He's like, all right, Fury, you take it from here. They can't know that I'm alive.
Yeah. No, that would have been dope, especially now that I'm like in love with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I'm telling you, there's very few shows that haunt me after I'm done watching them, especially superhero shows. But season 5 mentally screwed me for weeks. Like, see, with the fucking AI and going inside a fucking dream world. That's like one of my.
Everything's a simulation.
Like reality is not reality.
Oh, God.
And it like fucks with your mind. And they did a great job showing you the mental damage to these characters because they're fucking screwed mentally.
Yeah.
And they're like, so wait, artificial intelligence, made up worlds, demon skull with a fucking fire. We got him. So like, it's a lot of shit going on, and they're like, their freaking brains are put in. And well, no, that was season 4. Season 5 is when they're in space locked up. And I'm like, these guys can't catch a break. But that's why the show is so good, because the stakes are real, and you're like, kind of tough, man. And it's unfortunate, but I love the show because of that. They entered real stakes. And now that the show is like more of its own independent show, I feel like they could kind of ease back in. There's like, hey, like Coulson's alive. Did you know that? Hey, I hope season 6 they don't kill Coulson off, because I'll be pretty pissed. I want him to stay alive a little bit longer so he can show up in Endgame. Please don't fucking just let him show up in Endgame. Like imagine like my big. I am like at 79-80% that Cap and Iron Man die. What if like Coulson shows up when he makes that sacrifice play, and then you have Coulson holding Tony. He's trying to bring him back, and then they have that one last final banter. I'm gonna cry if that happens. I mean, everyone's gonna cry when Tony gets stabbed, but then everyone's gonna cry even more when Coulson reveals himself to be still alive, and then you have Quake showing up, and she's like, oh shit, holy fuck, Iron Man, wait, he's dying. Oh, that's unfortunate. And Fitz is doing his bit.
Pump him with some Kree blood.
Mechanical, his nerdy talk. I don't know how to impersonate that, because it's a lot of sciencey shit.
Yeah,
I got a D in science, so yeah.
You're doing great, kiddo.
You're doing great, kiddo.
So, you made me think of something else. Oh, I don't remember what it was. I already forgot.
I said Agent Coulson. I'm going to try to rejog your Agent Coulson. Iron Man, Cap dying.
Yeah. It's not working. It's not working. Abort. Mission abort. The Indian Golf 990. So the last thing I want to talk about is the Avengers Assemble moment at the very end. Is we see the new Avengers team. Oh, we got some hitters, blah, blah, blah. We're not the Yankees, whatever he says. But there's spaces that are open, and I've heard multiple rumors that there's a space for Captain Marvel that Joss Whedon just wanted to throw her in there. There's also a space for Spider-Man that they were just planning on throwing him in there at the end because they had just finalized the deal. And I was like, I'm all about it. I know it doesn't make any sense, and I'm glad we're getting it more fleshed out now. Like, it definitely makes way more sense to wait, but just like that oh shit factor, like at the end of the movie, just be like, and we got these guys, suck a dick.
I've been waiting for that one line, Avengers Assemble.
Oh god.
Why make us wait so fucking
because
long?
It's silly. It's a silly line.
You're in an Avengers movie. You don't say Avengers Assemble. Okay, whatever. Avengers Age of Ultron. Still don't say. Oh, wait. He's about to say Avengers. And they cut. I'm fucking annoyed about it. You don't understand. And they don't even say it in Infinity War. If they don't say it in Endgame, I'm automatically giving a 0 out of 10. You know why I'm giving it a 0? He didn't say Avengers Assemble. Imagine the upbeat moment when everything's looking up from like everyone's just coming back from the dead. You got Spider-Man, Drax, the Guardians, Hulk, Thor, everybody's just circling Thanos, and then you have Captain America raise the shield saying Avengers Assemble. They charge him and they kick his fucking ass. I want that. Why won't you give me that, Marvel? Please, give it to me.
What if it's like So they're like Thanos thinks he has the upper hand and all that stuff. All the surviving Avengers are there. Like I really wanted it to be more of like a hold the line kind of thing, like an X-Men: The Last Stand. The only like it was terrible, but like how Wolverine's calling it out or whatever. But I just thought of right now when you were saying it, how about they're all there. It looks like they're all getting beat up. Like they still can't beat Thanos. They thought they figured it out. And then all of a sudden, like that was a part of the plan. He straps up. He's like, Avengers, assemble. And then all of the heroes that got dusted are just like coming down. Like they're falling out of the soul world. And then they're just coming. And then just like... and then just the Avengers theme is going, and it's just like panning around to everybody coming in, and then they just start all beating up on him. I think that'd be great. Throw him in space prison.
I never had nerd tears before. I heard gasps, but I never had nerd tears where I actually cried. Not because of emotion, just because what I'm seeing is so godly that it can actually be like in a prophecy written in the Bible. It's just so gorgeous, and I'm just saying like. I'm watching history being made right now, and I would tear up just like, I'm part of it. I'm part of history. This is going to be the next Noah's Ark. This is history right here. And I'm like, I'm part of it, baby boy. I'm part of it. Dude, that's way better. Fuck my theory. Yours is way better. Just like, that is like, oh, I got you guys. Oh, you. And then he's like, Avengers Assemble. Then you got freaking crew coming in there with Hulk and they're fucking oh my. Freaking Avengers theme so loud that you actually to a couple inches
it just starts like
oh my god. Yes. We didn't get a pan shot in Infinity War.
No.
For obvious reasons, because it didn't really call for it. We had a pan shot in the first Avengers
and Age of Ultron.
Second Avengers. Now let's get one for the fourth Avengers because technically 3 and 4 are together. Connected, but they're not part 1 and part 2, but they're still like the same story arc. So it makes sense. This is like that great grand conclusion, and you have to have one long pan shot. It's got to be better than all the other ones. It's got to be like the freaking circling shot in New York City where
yeah.
Just, like when they defeat Thanos, I want one circle shot with every single MCU hero. Just like it's just one. It's like it's gonna be a minute long, and it's gonna be freaking dragged out. But I'm like, that is glorious. You deserve it. It might be a little bit long, but it's glorious, and I'm happy.
And it's like Rocket Raccoon's just like beating people up with Winter Soldier's arm.
Yeah. He's like, hey, buddy, I'm gonna need to borrow that.
Yeah,
it's in the nut section. Like, haha, let's take that.
Justin said, "Nah, that sucks. You suck, Justin. Shut up."
I'm gonna mute him. just abuse my power really quick. But dude, honestly, now if I don't see that, I feel like I'm gonna be pretty upset.
I know I shouldn't say
that.
If
I don't see that, there has to be something epic. Like, obviously these heroes are coming back. Just like I want to see these guys in one room before they go for the final assault on Thanos.
Yeah.
Just like it's like one small conference room, and you got like fucking 35 heroes. Like, oh, hey guys, there's like no room. They're like crunched together and shit like that. They're like, oh, I'm Peter, by the way. It's just them greeting each other like, oh, my name's Dr. Stephen Strange. And then Peter Quill's like, what the fuck is that? What's a Stephen Strange? Is that your actual name? Dude, I'm sorry for your loss. And he's just like,
he sees Hulk. He's like, what the hell is that thing? That's on our side.
This is like, I see Groot just going. I wanted to see Hulk and Groot just banter back and forth, just like, I'm Groot, and then he's like Hulk's like, Hulk weirded out by tall, skinny giants. But I think we're gonna have like an intelligent Hulk in this movie. So I feel like it's gonna be actually Bruce Banner as the Hulk, and he's like, Hulk's gonna be like, talking tree, talking raccoon, this thing just can't get any weirder. And then you just fucking see like Drax coming in there with all his dads, and he's like, you got a freaking special case right before your very eye. Wait, I don't think. No, never mind. I was about to say Banner didn't see Doctor Strange, and I realized Infinity War was the thing.
Justin said, "Well, I'm meeting you for our live stream tomorrow."
Wow, that's toxic. Wow.
Okay, we went. I think we went off on too many tangents. Age of Ultron, a little underwhelming for an Avengers movie. But it was still a bit of fun. Yeah.
My final thoughts is that it had a lot of potential. in the first half it delivered, and then it just became a freaking hour commercial for the future of the MCU, and that's where it lost it. And the reversal of the Ultron roles, where it should have been him being quippy and then becoming medicine instead of becoming medicine then quippy, then the movie would have been a lot better. Trim it down like a little bit longer, or just like add more banter scenes, because if they had more banter scenes, the movie would have been a lot better. Those are my final thoughts.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this episode of the New World Nation. Gump, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Gumps_videos, and I have a YouTube channel, Gumps Videos. I'll say hello in the chat. I'll just put H. That's my channel right there. So, yeah. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll see you guys whenever you guys get back.
I think he's coming back for Thor Ragnarok for sure. If anybody else, we'll see what happens. You never know. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We ended up getting up to 10 viewers at one point, which is the most I think we've had on the podcast. So I want to thank you guys very much. Age of Ultron was overwhelming. Wasn't the biggest film of... Oh, no one cares, Gump. That's what website said. I didn't say that. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Leave a like down below if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. And follow us on Twitter at New World Nerds. Thank you guys so much. Keep nerding out there, true believers.
Peace.
Peace.